super job. It's my privilege to introduce my boss, the administrator of the National Nuclear Security Administration, Tom DAgostino. It truly is a privilege for me to introduce Tom. He's a fantastic leader, a great boss. He understands our business. He's held a number of positions in the National Nuclear Security Administration. He's a class act, and he is a gentleman. Great person to work with. And in Pat Summit's talk, she talked about one of the key attributes of leaders is ensuring that folks understand you care. And you just spent a little bit of time with Tom, and you know that he cares about you, and he cares about the mission that we have in NNSA. So Tom was nominated by President Bush on May 17th, 2007, confirmed by the U.S. Senate in August 2007. He's responsible as the administrator for designing and producing, maintaining a safe, secure, and reliable nuclear weapons program. He's also responsible for providing safe, military, effective Navy nuclear propulsion and promoting international nuclear security and non-proliferation. Tom has held several positions within the department. He was the Deputy Administrator for the Defense Programs and was directed the Stockpile Stewardship Program and responsible for maintaining the safety, security, and reliability of the nuclear weapons program. He has also held several other positions within the organization, including program integration and also the Deputy Director for Nuclear Weapons Research, Development, and Simulation Program. Tom he is a distinguished graduate of the Navy War College from Newport, Rhode Island. He has a master's in business finance from Johns Hopkins University, and he's a graduate in physical science from the United States Naval Academy. Please join me in welcoming Tom DAgostino.
All right. Thank you, Ted. Appreciate it. Well, good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to be here. And Ted, thanks very much for the kind introduction. I'm really glad to be here to tell you a little bit about the NNSA, our future, and frankly, how safety ties into all of these pieces. And for once, I'm also quite impressed with this group. I understand you have 950 people here. Recognize some around in the hallway. But that's just a tremendous number of folks that are interested in safety. And I want to start off my time here with you to talk about my experience with safety and how I was shaped by events that happened early on in my career. As many of you know, I spent my time, formative years, 8 years or so on active duty in submarines. And in the Navy submarine service, we pride ourselves in safety. In fact, we pride ourselves in quality and getting the job done and all of these things that all of us here pride ourselves in, frankly, in safety. And we did it because we felt, obviously, our lives depended on it. And so we were very proud of that. But the reality is we thought that was enough to get us through. And the story I'm about to tell you is to let you know that pride can be a dangerous thing. On the skipjack, we were very proud of the work we were doing. We were operating out in the Med. We just done some operations. And we pulled into a little island off the coast of Sardinia called La Maddalena. There's a U.S. tender there that takes care of submarines. And we're getting some work done on our submarine. I was a junior officer, Lieutenant JG, 23, 24 years old or something. And that summer, when we were getting some work done, we had just a horrible accident that has stayed with me. It's kind of one of those things that gets burned into your brain. That stayed with me for a long period of time. And that accident was a demonstration of, the pride we expected. We were number one. We knew what we were doing, leading to some complacency, and the complacency leading to this accident. And don't want to get into too much gruesome detail, especially right after lunch, but I'll tell you some to give you a sense of why it's still burned into my brain. And submarines have the sail, which is the part of the submarine that sticks kind of outside of the tube. And in the sail, there are a lot of masts and antennas, snorkel masts and then broadcasting antennas. One antenna, the really big one called the Bra 34, is kind of the all-purpose antenna. And without that antenna, you're in real trouble. in your submarine operations. Well, we had a few problems with that, so we pulled in, parked ourselves outside the tender, raised the bra 34 because we knew that we needed to get it up and out, and it's raised with 3,000-pound hydraulics, and got it raised up and locked it in place with the hydraulics, put tags on the valves, and then in the midst of a lot of other work that was happening, and again, like I said, we thought we knew what we were doing with respect to safety. We sent technicians up there. They take off the little cover plates and look inside the antenna and work on the electronics. And so here you can picture on the very top of the submarine this antenna sticking straight up in the air, and the cover plate off the side is off, and people with their arms inside that antenna. Well, the last thing you want when you have arms in there, or anybody up there, is the thing moving up and down. And unfortunately, through a series of events, the details are not important. We had a technician up there who shouldn't have been up there, didn't hear the message that was broadcast. We didn't have anybody independently check to make sure the sail was empty. One of the hydraulic valves in the submarine was repositioned, and that antenna came down with somebody's arm in it, and created, took the arm off between the wrist and the elbow. You can imagine the scene. It was not good. Helicopters, screaming, everything. Really bad. Left quite an impression on everybody on that submarine. The story starts bad, ends well. This was in the early 80s. We were in Italy. Those Italian doctors were amazing. Managed to bring the pieces back together again. That sailor, who's probably retired now, still doesn't have use of 3 fingers on that arm, but he's got the arm back. But that arm is a permanent reminder of that individual, to the ship's duty officer that said, hey, we can open up this valve, to the watch person up on deck that didn't check to make sure that the top side was clear. And it goes back to my point, which is that, the pride in the work you do, even in the submarine force, where we think we are the best in safety and quality because we feel our lives depended on it, we have accidents, and these accidents were totally preventable. So I think the fact that all of you are here today is a real commendation to the importance you place on safety. That's why I'm here today, Frank. I do believe that this is important. All of us have been around long enough, all of you have been around long enough to know about accidents that have happened out in our enterprise. It impacts people, costs money, stops operations, mission doesn't get done. I mean, it's bad all the way around. So I really want to acknowledge the group here today, to Oak Ridge Operations, Jerry Boyd, and Y-12 Site Office, Ted Sherry, the lab and the plant, for hosting this conference, and for all of you here today for setting a record turnout and coming here, because you know this is important stuff. I'm not telling you anything new, but it's a demonstration of how seriously we take safety. So I applaud the efforts of the ISM community really for bringing all of this stuff together and for pulling together workshops and forums, and for your participation. I urge you to actively participate in those things. So this year's theme of reaching new heights is one that really resonates with our efforts within the NNSA. Many of you know we're in the midst of transforming ourselves. Our vision is to shift from a Cold War nuclear weapons complex, where the focus is on nuclear weapons, and shift to a 21st century national security enterprise, which encompasses nuclear security broadly, not just the weapons piece of nuclear security, but the nonproliferation piece of nuclear security, the nuclear counterterrorism piece of nuclear security, the nuclear forensics piece of nuclear security, emergency management. All of those pieces tie together. In fact, it's bigger than the NNSA. It's throughout the whole department, because we count on Oak Ridge National Laboratory, we count on PNNL and other laboratories across the whole department to knit together a nuclear security series of activities and programs that have to get done. And it's really an exciting time to be part of the NNSA at this point, particularly with the new president. President Obama has been very clear. In his very first foreign policy speech in Prague, he did it in early April, he laid out a new course for the United States. He initiated bold steps to put us on a new path and reinforce the path of ending Cold War thinking and leading to this international effort to enhance our global security. Like President Reagan before him, he talked about taking nuclear weapons down to zero. But he recognized that this is a very long-term series of activities. He says it's not going to happen in his lifetime, but we need to start down that path. And many of you in these programs know that we are marching ourselves down that path. But he also said that as long as we're going to have a nuclear stockpile, we're going to make sure that it's safe, secure, and effective to deter any adversary and to meet our commitments to our allies. So this really is a commitment, frankly, to work two things at the same time. And they're two sides of the same coin, frankly. You can't separate the two. Going to zero is one thing, but recognizing that the world is still a dangerous place, that nuclear security is not just about the warheads themselves, but it's about these other series of activities that are going to have to happen, and that we're all part of that. So over the coming months, the President will be advancing this agenda. We're going to get some details of it in the Nuclear Posture Review. And we in the NNSA, we here in the Department of Energy, play central roles in taking that vision that he described in Prague, turning it into program and budget to be reflected in our FY11 budget, and then, most importantly, implementing that program and budget, not only in FY10, but FY11, FY12, and the out years. So our commitment to safety in this area is completely intertwined with this pointy end of the spear mission that we have. Many new programs are going to be required in order to move forward on this, to meet the President's nuclear security agenda and to maintain the safety, security, and reliability of our stockpile. Projects that we've completed and are operationalizing here in Tennessee with the HEUMF facility are a key part of that. They're going to help us meet the mission. They're going to help us be more secure, and they're going to help us with safety, nuclear safety along the way, right here at Y-12. And in South Carolina, we just passed the 2-year marker on the construction for the mixed oxide fuel fab plant. Not only is the project on time and on budget, but we recently went past the 2 million work hour without a lost work day. And that's a pretty significant achievement. We obviously want to continue that out into the future. So we must maintain a strong record of safe operations and good project management if we're going to maintain the political support that we need in order to get the budgets that are going to be needed to get all this work done, to shift from this Cold War nuclear weapons complex to a 21st century nuclear security enterprise. So this is a fairly demanding activity, and it's going to take a culture of work that recognizes that safety is really inherently integrated with that, where our workers return safely to their families each and every day. And integrated safety management provides the perfect foundation to integrate these and other function areas such as quality assurance, emergency management together to make us more efficient. It saves money across the enterprise as well by minimizing duplication of effort. Of course, NNSA is not alone when facing significant challenges over the coming years. All of our DOE program offices have very full plates and high expectations from the American public. We cannot stumble or fall. We must not only work harder, but we must work smarter, be more innovative, leverage the science and technology that we have here, and continue to build on what we know works and change what we know doesn't work. And that's going to be the tricky part, because I know you may have started talking about that earlier. But it's ultimately in keeping with Secretary Chu's commitment and bringing reform to the department. As part of that effort, I established an internal enterprise reengineering team in the NNSA to identify complex-wide reform initiatives that will change the way we do business in the NNSA. We went out with a fairly directive memo. I talked to the leadership within the NNSA and asked them for ideas. I want implementable, tangible ideas that can be put in place. We've got 114 proposals. Camille Wansuhu is leading teams to evaluate all of those proposals and figure out which ones can we implement. In many cases, the department is looking at what we're doing. They're quite aware of that. I've talked to the Secretary and Deputy Secretary Poneman about what we're doing and what we've done, particularly over the last few years, to see what works and what doesn't work. Some of it's about risk management. Some of it has to do with just improving the way we do